Hey there, I'm Zimnoch, and in this episode, I'm actually going to reveal an appraisal hack that will net the seller more money. So in San Diego right now, we're actually experiencing a very good market once again. Last year, May through literally December of 2018, it slowed down. This year, interest rates are in low threes or high threes, and buyers are out there buying properties. And we are having appraisal issues on certain properties. So the challenge that, agents and investors run into is how do we actually keep the money in the investor or the seller's pocket, right? Even if the property doesn't appraise. So let me share a couple stories of how I do this. So just recently, I sold a property in Fontana, California, right? And we priced the property really strategically, I would say, so we could generate multiple offers. We got over list price, and when that happens, and I strategically did this so I could get, higher price points and hit higher price points, get more offers, more eyes, bid up the price. But then I was concerned about the appraisal. So as I'm negotiating, because now I have leverage, I have multiple offers and I have leverage on my side. As I'm negotiating with the agents, one thing I start discussing with them, hey, by the way, I've noticed that, your client has X amount to put down. Would they feel comfortable bringing some money to the table if the property does not appraise? And this is not an easy conversation for a buyer's agent to have with their client, because not many buyers are excited to pay more than what the list price was. And especially if the appraisal comes in at the list price or below and they are paying above that, not an easy situation to be in for a buyer's agent. However, when we build this excitement and momentum, and I have leverage and I have multiple offers and they're emotionally connected to this property, in that moment is the best time to negotiate for the buyer to agree to bring some cash to the table just in case the property doesn't appraise. And believe it or not, there are many buyers that will do it, right? The challenge is that you don't want to wait until the appraisal to negotiate that. You have to do this up front, right? So that's tip number one. You have to do this up front. So in this situation, I did that. And I was able to, I tried to get 5,000 because most buyers won't leave it open-ended and say, oh, well, if you're asking, if we're putting an offer at 450,000 and it appraises at 400, I'm not okay bringing 50,000. And that's understandable. So what I'm trying to do is get them to commit to maybe a cap, a number, right? A specific number. And usually I won't put the number out unless the agent tells me to. So in this situation, we came up with a $5,000 number that I countered, that I asked the buyer to agree to bring $5,000 to the closing table if the property, for any reason, doesn't appraise. They countered at $2,500. We agreed. Guess what happened? Appraisal came back $3,000 below their purchase price. So what did that end up meaning? Well, my client only had to reduce the purchase price by $500, not the full $3,000, because we pre-negotiated the $2,500 up front, and that's why we even took their offer to begin with, because they agreed to it, unlike the other offers. So my client ended up netting an extra $2,500 on this sale because of that pre-negotiation. We never had to lower the price. And guess what? The property didn't even appraise by, to the actual purchase price. It was $3,000 below. So that's one example. Second example, I just sold this property literally last week. This was a condo, same thing. We strategically priced it. We got multiple offers. I got an offer again, $5,000 above list price. I was worried I could foresee a problem with the appraisal, and I had the buyer agree to bringing $5,000 to the table, right? Again, before we open escrow, not after, that's when that happened. This particular appraisal actually came at value, which was awesome. So the buyer was ecstatic. They didn't feel like they didn't overpay, because this is what the buyers might be thinking, like, am I overpaying for this house, right? So they didn't have to have that feeling. But we had that in the contract, pre-negotiated, as an ability for my client to collect an extra $5,000 from this buyer if it didn't appraise by $5,000 or less, right? So these are just most recent, literally within the last month or so, this has happened right here. But let me remind you again, you need to negotiate that before you actually open escrow. That's number one. Then, once the escrow is open and the appraiser calls to go and appraise the property for the buyer, if they're getting a loan, make sure you, the agent or the owner, meets the appraiser at the property and you bring a packet for the appraiser. Not that you're going to try to influence the appraiser and try to get them to appraise it for what it's not worth. But instead, all you're doing is you're providing them facts. And the things that I put in my packets when I go and meet the appraiser is, yes, I do print some comparables, because some appraisers, sometimes they're being sent from other counties. They might not even know this particular area as much as we might. Believe it or not, that happens. So I do print comps. I print a scope of work, especially for properties that were never renovated, right? Because I work with a lot of investors. So I asked them, give me your scope of work of what you've updated here. Because an appraiser is going to use that to determine the value of that property at a higher rate, at a higher price compared to other properties that are not renovated. So I want the scope of work. And last, if I have multiple offers on that property, and obviously I only chose one, and those offers came in very close or at the same price, and we only chose this particular offer because of the terms, then I will print the first page of every offer that further supports the fact that there are buyers out there in today's market willing and able to pay this price that we're under contract for this house on, right? So that's what I put in the packet. And that's how we all create a win-win. Analyzing a property before you buy it is obviously very important. However, what I find that most people just do it wrong. And I know that alone, one mistake could cost you tens and thousands of dollars. It could literally cost you your business. And I don't want that to happen to you. So I created a step-by-step property analysis guide sheet to walk you through exactly what to look for to make sure your deal that you're looking at is worth buying. To get the property analysis guide sheet, just go to randyzimnoch.com.